Yes, have a seat. Have a seat. I don't think I need to tell you that you screwed up very badly. Now, I've read the official reports from your partner. I've read your report. I want you to tell it to me in your own words right now. What happened last night? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Go on. Go on. I want to hear all of it from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Continue. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me this was an accident, an unfortunate accident. I don't think you understand. I made this assignment very clear to you. I also made it clear that subject 88180 is extremely important to us. There is a reason why his life has been monitored ever since he was born. There is a reason why every single individual he reacts with or has ever reacted with in what he considers to be real life are our agents. We have left nothing to chance. Nothing. Mikhail was a brilliant doctor. The serum he created for the Soviet Union was supposed to make super soldiers. Mhm. From the time of conception until old age. Unfortunately, there were severe side effects. So, every single one of the children born that was part of his experiments have been severely monitored by our organization. Borders, nations, none of that matters. That's how dangerous his experiments were. Now, we crafted a very nice, boring life for this subject. However, it is vital that he does not reproduce, does not have children. Now, we've come up with several ways around that, and they seem to be working. Unfortunately, his lack of companionship means that he sometimes gets very angry and very loud, but he doesn't ever physically lash out. That makes things a little bit easier for us, a little bit. Now, you were supposed to play the part of the neighbor, a young woman who also speaks Russian just like he does, and your job was simple. You were supposed to be one of the few positive influences in his life. Always positive, always friendly, always warm. You screwed that up last night. The problem is not that you went downstairs to empty the trash. The problem was not that you flung open the elevator door like some sort of two-legged violent animal. The problem wasn't that you hit the subject in the head with that heavy elevator door. The problem was that the situation caught you off guard, and rather than immediately apologize for what you did and behave warm and friendly towards him like your character of the neighbor, your true personality came out. You didn't apologize. When he checked his head to make sure he wasn't bleeding, and he wasn't, what did he say to you? Yes. He asked you to be a bit more careful next time when opening the elevator door. And what did you say to him? Again, you didn't apologize. You said, well, it's not like that. And then you gave him attitude. And you pissed him off. Why would you do that? Like I said, you are one of the fortunate ones. We have other agents whose job it is to tick him off a little bit. Agents whom he'll only encounter one time in his life, whose job it is to piss him off severely, to see if he violently, physically lashes out. That's their job. Theirs, not yours. You don't understand how vital it is for us to constantly monitor the subject. When he's sleeping, we monitor him. We put obstacles in his way, not physical obstacles. Well, sometimes we do that, but that's beside the point. Your job was not to piss him off. Your job was not to occasionally piss him off and then generally be friendly or pretend the incident didn't happen. But of course, that's what you're going to do going forward. When he got to work, he ranted and raved to a coworker he doesn't particularly like because he needed to vent and he didn't care who else was listening. Obviously, that coworker is one of our agents monitoring him. I've read his report. You are very fortunate that this subject has decided to do his best to avoid you and not talk to you if he does encounter you in the building. You're very fortunate that was his decision. So, this is an incident that can be forgotten about. You and your partner agent are going to pretend it never happened. Again, the problem isn't even the fact that you smacked the subject accidentally in the head and nearly caused him to bleed. The problem is what you did immediately afterwards. Ironically, even with his violent tendencies, If he had done that, he would have profusely apologized immediately, because thankfully he was raised with morals. So he's able to overcome the serum that's supposed to give him heightened strength and aggression to a certain degree. You are lucky he didn't physically lash out. Normally he doesn't physically lash out, but his patience, thinner and thinner with every day that goes by. So your partner reacted properly. Your partner, whom the subject has never seen before in his life and just jumped out of the apartment in order to protect you, well, he did his job properly. You screwed yours up. So here's what's going to happen. You are going to continue living in that apartment. Your interaction with him will be zero, as in zero intentional reaction and interaction. Once in a while, the two of you are going to accidentally encounter each other. When that happens, you are to remain silent and not say anything. I don't even care if he says anything to you, you remain silent. You act like nothing happened. Based on all the data that we have collected over the last 50 years on this subject, he's not going to say anything to you. Even if he does, you keep your mouth shut. You will continue living in the apartment for approximately another year, you and your partner. And then you will sell your apartment and move out. Well, we bought the apartment next door. We bought all of the apartments on the floor he lives on. You will move out after a year. We'll bring in someone else, someone younger, and she will be one of the few positive influences in his life, casual positive influences. It is vitally important that this subject is monitored. Vitally important. From the day he was born until the day he dies. You and your partner are going to be transferred back to Russia. No. You don't understand. This is not optional. Not for you, not for him. You're both being transferred back to Russia. You will be reassigned. It'll most likely be a similar role. Maybe not. Consider yourself extremely lucky because the board reviewed your actions. You broke character. That can never happen. Your character would have profusely apologized after slamming that elevator door into his skull. That moment was a very tense moment for everyone in the monitoring room. Oh. But again, that wasn't the issue. Your reaction was you should have apologized immediately, profusely. Your character would have, and everything would have been fine. An unfortunate event would have been recorded as a random unfortunate event. His reaction to your apology would have been studied. It would have been a perfect opportunity. What did you do? You failed to apologize, even after it was clear he was okay. You failed to apologize. That is what your character would have done. And then, not only did you fail to apologize at that moment, or when he said, "No, I'm fine, I'm not bleeding." When he said, "Next time, please be a bit more careful with the door," which is honestly a very reasonable thing to say. He wasn't giving you attitude. What did you do? Instead of taking that opportunity to apologize, you gave him attitude. You pissed him off. That is the last thing that you were supposed to do. That is the last thing in the world. Now, you're very fortunate that your partner came out of the apartment, heard the shouting, stood there and acted like a stereotypical dumbass overprotective boyfriend, even though the subject never threatened you with violence, never raised a hand to you, never said he was going to physically do anything to you. He stepped in, he did his job after you screwed up your job. So yes, this reassignment back in Russia is a punishment. Would you like the alternative? Would you genuinely prefer the alternative? I want to show you something. This lighter has no fuel in it. It's empty. However, in a survival situation, the fact that it still creates a spark, this lighter is still useful. Consider yourself lucky. You are this lighter. You're still useful to the organization. But as far as this assignment, consider it basically over. You and your partner will remain in the apartment for another year. And then you will move out. The subject will just assume that you sold it to someone else. And that's how it's going to be. Do not approach the subject intentionally. If you bump into him in the laundry room, don't speak to him. If you bump into him getting off the elevator, and let me make this very clear, I don't mean slamming the elevator door into his head accidentally, like some deranged two-legged animal. That's not what I meant. You intentionally do not engage the subject. Not even a morning time greeting. None of it. If you encounter him accidentally, keep your mouth shut. For all intents and purposes, your assignment is basically suspended for the next year. What do you mean, why? Because if you moved out immediately, he would be suspicious. He's already suspicious that he's being monitored. Everyone here just pretends that's not the case. He is very suspicious that he's being monitored, that his life is being monitored. He just has no clue to the extent of it. So, keep your mouth shut and be very lucky that the board chose reassignment instead of the alternative. You screwed up. Don't screw up again.